This has been a crazy summer of credit card movement. So, with that being said, I can't wait to share with you which cards I'm using today to navigate the changes in the credit card game and my exact cards I'm looking at for my next plays ahead. Let's dive right on in. Let me introduce you first to what's in my wallet, starting off with how I'm playing Q3 2025. And I'll begin with the Category Kings. These are specific cards that I'm using to get the most possible return on every dollar I have to spend. Let's meet my newest card, the Amazon Prime Visa. Now, this card was an unexpected addition into my wallet, and if you'd watched my latest credit card roadmap video, you'd know that it was not on a list of cards that I was even considering at the time of making that. However, as things move quickly in this game, the Amazon Prime Visa shifted and instantly jumped to the top of the list of potential cards I was considering. What's most important about the Prime Visa is that it earns 5% cash back on Amazon.com and 5% back if you happen to shop at Whole Foods. Now, there are other categories, but those don't apply to my wallet strategy because I out-earn those specific categories with cards I'll tell you about in just a second. However, my use case for getting this card was really twofold. First, my wife and I already spent a decent amount at Amazon.com. It was an expense that we were using our Capital One Venture X card in the past on, and an area I'd been hoping to upgrade for some time. However, everything came together in the last month. Amazon for Prime Day celebrated by offering an increased $250 instant approval gift card with no minimum spend requirement for getting the Prime Visa. With the 5% cashback earnings and the fact that my wife and I just welcomed our first kid into the world, which means in all likelihood we'll be spending even more in the future on Amazon.com, well, it just became the perfect storm. So now I've upgraded my Amazon spend from 2x miles on the Venture X up to 5% cashback, and got the $250 gift card in hand that we used instantly for things we already had to buy. Up next is a card I'm taking a very different strategy on this quarter, and it's still a relatively recent addition to my wallet. This is the Citi Custom Cash, and it earns 5% cash back on your top spending category in each billing cycle, and that's capped at $500 a cycle. On everything else outside of your top spending category, it earns a flat 1% back. Now, as you can see reviewing the Citi Custom Cash categories, there's some real flexibility in the range of categories that Citi can credit you for that 5% top earning level. Now, typically, my wife and I follow a common strategy and use the Custom Cash as a dedicated gas card. However, in this quarter, I've shifted my wallet strategy around to pivot the Custom Cash into the dining category in our lives. That's because there's another card that will earn even better in gas, and now I have to shift the Custom Cash into a different role in the setup. It works because having tracked my personal expenses for the last year, using a template you can find at www.rdguarantee.com/guides, I know that I spend on average about $330 a month on dining, which does fit nicely under that $500 spend cap. Now, using the Custom Cash as a dining card when there are just so many cards out there that earn elevated multipliers, but also get you transferable currency that could be redeemed for even more value, may seem like a strange choice. However, I think you'll see my exact reasoning as I lay out the next few cards. Finally, a last play that I'm keeping in my back pocket with this card is that the Custom Cash is marketed as a cashback card and can be redeemed as such. However, it does earn thank you points, and if I one day wanted to add one of Citi's travel cards to my wallet, say the Strata Premier or the newly announced Citi Strata Elite, then I could take those thank you points that I've earned with the Custom Cash, send them over to a travel card, and still get excess value redeeming those points for travel. As the new Strata Elite rolls out and becomes publicly available, consider subscribing to the channel if you want to become informed of how that card impacts the other top premium credit cards available today. Now, here's the card that displaced my Custom Cash as my primary gas card, and that is the Chase Freedom Flex. In Q3, the Freedom Flex stayed in my rotation by adding gas as one of its rotating categories. That falls alongside EV charging, select live entertainment, and a birthday bonus category of Instacart. Now, I've decided to use the Freedom Flex as my card to earn 5x on gas as opposed to the Custom Cash earning 5% on gas because I value Chase Ultimate Rewards points higher than I value cities, which are currently cash back for me. Here's how that breaks down. Both earn 5x or 5%. However, with the Chase Freedom Flex, I value those points at 2 cents each. There are multiple good redemption methods through Chase that I look at right now, and that effectively will give me a 10% return on spend for my gas. Now, as I talked about, I could one day add a city travel card to my lineup and then potentially make the city thank you points worth even more. But for now, those are valued at just 1 cent per point each, giving me a return of 5% if I were to use my custom cash on gas. I've also got the Discover It rewards card in play here too, although it's for a very small category. The Discover It is earning 5% back at gas stations, EV charging, public transit, and utilities. However, gas stations and EV charging are off the table because the Freedom Flex beats that out with its ability to earn transferable currency. I don't spend on public transit, but that does leave utility bills as a 5% earner that I can attach this card to for the quarter. I'm still rocking with the PayPal debit card for in-store grocery purchases at Walmart. I talked about how that's gotten nerfed, so for the rest of my grocery purchases that I have to do online for pickup through walmart.com, those are getting funneled to the Venture X. The last higher spending category that I'm filling is being done by the Chase Sapphire Preferred, where I'm earning 3x back on select streaming services, and I basically put all of my subscriptions right onto there. So here's what we have so far, breaking down the category kings. Again, you can see I'm earning almost 5% in some very specific categories that I spend in quite frequently. However, if you'd like to pick up your own roadmap and category track it yourself, the same guides that I use are available again at my website, rdguarantee.com/guides. However, that's not the entire lineup. Let's take a peek into the travel cards that I'm using in quarter 3 of 2025. Of course, I've still got the Capital One Venture X in the rotation, and this will be my most used credit card as it's my catch-all card, earning 2x miles back on non-category purchases. For booking travel, I'll of course still use this card, and I'll use the portal on simpler bookings to earn 10x on hotels and rentals and 5x on flights that I have to book. However, I'm not planning on doing a ton of travel booking this quarter, but I still want the Venture X in my rotation to keep the miles coming in because I am looking towards a bigger international trip in the next year to year and a half. Finally, the last card that's making its way in, but only to complete a sign-up bonus, is my Delta SkyMiles Gold card. Now I'm currently tracking my progress to spend 3K in the first 6 months on this card to earn 80,000 Delta SkyMiles. I made an entire video about my strategy with the Delta SkyMiles cards and how I'm planning to climb the ladder every single year. This card doesn't really earn great multipliers, so it does hurt me to spend in this card actively. However, the value of meeting the sign-up bonus far outweighs getting potentially less points on category purchases, so I'm just going to grit my teeth to spend through it to meet that cap in the next few weeks. With those being my 2 travel cards in rotation, here's the entire map of how I'm meeting my spending categories and which cards I'm using as the primary and secondary options for all of my dollars over the next few months. Now that was great, it's where I'm at today. However, let's talk about what's next. I want to fill you in on my current status, what I'm looking at for the next 0 to 6 months, and then what I see as potential strategy plays for the next year or so and beyond. So in the past year, some of the biggest changes of my life have come back to back to back. It's really been one thing after another. I'm sharing a lot of this with you because a lot of them are financial related. In October 2024, my wife and I bought our first house. Then in May 2025, we also made our first car purchase and upgraded my wife's car, which she'd been driving since college, to a brand new vehicle. Finally, in July 2025, just a few weeks after the time I'm recording this video today, we welcomed our first child into the world. Now you may be wondering how all of this relates to my credit card strategy. Well, the one thing I'll share with you, if you couldn't tell already, is all of those changes back to back to back are extremely expensive. I'm sure like many of you who have been feeling the squeeze these days, we are certainly experiencing that same thing as well. And that's why I spend so much time and effort building a robust setup, trying to get the most possible back on the dollars we have to spend. That's why I get really happy when I see a lineup that earns close to 5% back in a lot of high spend areas. And because the setup that I built out is a hybrid setup in nature, you could tell that a lot of the cards I'm using this quarter are cashback earning cards because You can't eat points and miles, but you certainly can eat cash back, and every little bit of optimization towards earning cash back is going to make a difference right now in our lives. While I won't always be keeping my wallet in cash back mode, I will be shifting towards travel coming up. So my next 0 to 6 months looks something like this. I'm going to stay laser focused on optimizing spend. I don't think that hybrid setup is going to shift towards travel anywhere before the end of 2025, so I'll be focused on earning max cash back. Second, I will be taking some local travel. I want to test out the Chase Points Boost feature with my Sapphire Preferred and potentially booking some boosted hotels for getaway weekends, but those will all be within driving distance, so the new big changes in the credit card game with the new Sapphire Reserve, City Strata Elite, and the potential refresh of the Amex Platinum, with those providing incredible big trip opportunities, well, they're not very applicable to my life as I stand here today. However, zooming forward to the next year plus, I am excited to get back into the travel game and get there aggressively. Summer of 2026 is when I want to turn off cashback mode and full on go into transferable currency. And this will align with my lifestyle plans. First, I'm going to look at my Delta SkyMiles Gold card and considering upgrading that to a Delta SkyMiles Platinum card after I've hit 1 year with that card. That would be sometime after March 2026, and I'd start an entirely new application on the SkyMiles Platinum to look for a welcome bonus of at least 90,000, but maybe potentially as high as 100,000 SkyMiles to get that card. US Credit Card Guide is a great resource to see historical sign-up bonus offers, and that chart shows me those numbers would definitely be possible if I'm patient and wait on the right offer on the SkyMiles Platinum. In addition to picking up the SkyMiles card, I'm really still high on the 5 free night offer that the Marriott Bonvoy Boundless seems to come around with once a year. I'd again wait and be patient and target that 5 free night offer, which I think is the best one for me and my wife on that card. Getting that card sometime in summer or fall of 2026 would also start the clock that would allow me to track towards the Ritz-Carlton credit card. I like the look of the lounge options there, which would allow me to then get access to Chase Sapphire lounges as they continue to expand their lounge network. Additionally, I feel personally there are credits that allow me to work that annual fee down to effectively zero, thus making the card not a big weight into my wallet. However, there is one thing to know that this card is under higher scrutiny by this community because it does seem to be an obvious play to get nerfed by Chase. The value is really high in this current era, and that card is looked at as kind of a pocket that hasn't been hit hard, so that always leaves the potential for it to be a target by the banks to bring back down to the current meta. I made a video specifically focused on the biggest value plays I'm seeing, and those two that I just listed that I'm looking at in my own life are part of the ones that I want to target for myself, but I also see out there for the general person who's wanting to travel and get great experiences for a reasonable cost from their credit cards. Finally, while that wraps up how I'm using my cards, what I'm looking towards in the future, and my current status with my spending situation. If you want to use any of these cards yourself and feel like one could be a good fit in your life, I really encourage you to use my link in the description below if you want to support the channel. Thanks so much for watching this video, and I can't wait to see you in the next one.